My parents kicked me out for being useless. Years later, they came begging for help, but I made them regret every word they said. The rain hammered against my apartment window as I stared at the email that had just arrived. After 7 years of silence, my mother had found me. 7 years since they'd thrown me out like yesterday's garbage, calling me worthless, useless, a disappointment to the family name. I was 18 then, fresh out of high school with dreams bigger than our small industrial town could contain. While my older brother Marcus was already climbing the corporate ladder at Dad's construction company, I wanted to pursue art and digital design. To my parents, this wasn't a career. It was a childish fantasy. Art doesn't put food on the table, David, my father had bellowed that final night, his face red with frustration. You're 18 now. Either get a real job or get out of my house. My mother stood behind him, arms crossed, nodding in agreement. We've given you everything, and this is how you repay us? By throwing your life away on silly drawings? They're not silly drawings, I had protested, showing them my portfolio. Digital illustrations, website designs, logo concepts I'd created for local businesses. I can make money with this. I already have clients. Clients? Dad laughed bitterly. You mean those $20 logos you made for Pete's Pizza? That's not a career, son. That's a hobby. The words that followed still echoed in my mind. You're useless, David. Absolutely useless. If you can't contribute to this family, you don't belong in it. By morning, my bags were packed, and I was on a Greyhound bus to Chicago with $300 and a broken heart. The first year was brutal. I slept on couches, worked night shifts at a diner, and spent every free moment building my portfolio and hunting for design work. I sent emails to hundreds of agencies, got rejected more times than I could count, and questioned whether my parents had been right about me being useless. But slowly, things changed. A small agency took a chance on me as a junior designer. I worked 18-hour days, absorbed everything like a sponge, and proved myself project by project. My designs started winning awards. Clients specifically requested me. Within 3 years, I was a senior designer. By year 5, I was creative director. Then came the opportunity that changed everything. A tech startup needed a complete rebrand and digital presence. The project was massive. Their entire visual identity, website, app interface, marketing materials. I poured my soul into it, creating something that wasn't just beautiful, but revolutionary in its user experience. The startup exploded. Within 6 months, they were acquired by Google for $500 million. My design work was featured in every major tech publication. Job offers flooded in. I started my own agency, hired a team of brilliant designers, and watched as we became one of the most sought-after creative firms in the country. By year 7, I was financially successful beyond my wildest teenage dreams. But more importantly, I had found my purpose. We weren't just creating pretty pictures. We were solving problems, helping businesses connect with people, making technology more human. I had also built a new family. My team wasn't just employees. They were people I mentored, supported, and genuinely cared about. I remembered what it felt like to be dismissed and undervalued, so I made sure no one on my team ever experienced that. Which brought me back to the email from my mother. David, I know it's been a long time and we didn't part on good terms, but we need your help. Your father is very sick, cancer, and the medical bills are overwhelming. The construction business is struggling and we're facing bankruptcy. Marcus told us about your success, and we hoped, maybe you could help your family in this difficult time. We know we made mistakes. Please call me, love, Mom. I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me felt vindicated. They needed the useless son now. But mostly, I felt sad. Sad for the years we'd lost. Sad for my father's illness. Sad for the family that could have been. I didn't call immediately. Instead, I did what I always did when facing a big decision. I researched. It didn't take long to find out the truth. Dad's construction company was indeed failing, but not because of the economy. Marcus, the successful son, had been embezzling money for years to fund a gambling addiction. The medical bills were real, but the financial crisis was entirely of their own making. 3 days later, I finally called. David? Oh my God, David, is it really you? My mother's voice cracked with emotion. It's me, Mom. I can't believe we've missed you so much. We made such terrible mistakes. Mom, I interrupted gently. I got your email. Tell me about Dad. The The conversation was awkward, painful, and necessary. She told me about the diagnosis, the treatments, the mounting bills. She carefully avoided mentioning Marcus's gambling problem, painting him as the devoted son who was doing everything he could to keep the business afloat. "How much do you need?" I finally asked. "The medical bills alone are over $200,000. And if we lose the business—" "I'll take care of the medical bills," I said. "But I have conditions. Anything. Anything you want. First, I'm not giving you cash. I'll pay the hospital directly, and I'll arrange for Dad to have the best oncologist in the region. Second, Marcus needs to enter a gambling addiction program immediately. I know about the embezzlement, Mom. All of it." Silence. "David, I don't know what you've heard, but I know everything. Bank records, casino transactions, the falsified company accounts. He stole over $300,000 from the business. Dad's sick, but that's not why you're broke." More silence, then quiet sobbing. We didn't know what to do. We couldn't bear to lose both our sons. "You lost me 7 years ago when you decided I was worthless," I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "You kept Marcus despite his addiction and theft. I think that says everything about your priorities." "David, please. I'm not finished. Third condition. Dad gets his treatment, but the business fails unless Marcus pays back every penny he stole. I won't enable his addiction by bailing out the company. Fourth, if you want me back in your life, it starts with an honest conversation about why you kicked out your son for pursuing his dreams while protecting your other son who was literally stealing from you." The call ended shortly after that, with promises to think about my conditions. 2 weeks later, they agreed to everything. I flew home for the first time in 7 years. The town looked smaller, shabbier than I remembered. My parents had aged dramatically. Dad looked frail and tired. Mom seemed to have shrunk into herself. The reunion was emotional but tense. They thanked me repeatedly for paying Dad's medical bills, for arranging his treatment with a renowned oncologist. But underneath the gratitude was something else. Resentment, maybe, or shame. "I still don't understand your job," Dad said during one awkward dinner. "You make computer pictures?" "I build brands, Dad. I help companies communicate their values and connect with their customers through visual design and user experience." He nodded politely, clearly still not understanding. It was Mom who finally broke down during my last evening there. "I'm so sorry, David. We were so wrong about you, about everything. We thought we were protecting you from disappointment, pushing you towards something stable. But we were really just scared. Scared that if you failed at your dreams, it would be our fault for not stopping you." "And when Marcus started stealing?" I asked. She looked away. "We thought we could fix it quietly. We thought if we just gave him time, he'd figure it out. We were afraid of losing him too." "You were afraid of the shame," I corrected. "Having a son who was an addict and a thief reflected badly on you. Having a son who was an artist just seemed impractical." She couldn't deny it. Dad's treatment went well. The cancer was caught early enough that surgery and chemotherapy put him into remission. But the family business died, as I knew it would. Marcus entered rehab, began the long process of recovery, and slowly started paying back what he'd stolen through a job at a competing construction firm. My parents eventually moved to a smaller house, lived more modestly, but survived. We maintained contact, careful, cordial conversations every few months. They occasionally shared my professional successes with neighbors, though I suspected they still didn't really understand what I did. The real resolution came 2 years later, at an unexpected moment. I was giving a keynote speech at a design conference in Chicago about the power of creativity in business. Afterward, a young woman approached me. She couldn't have been more than 20, with nervous energy and a portfolio clutched in her hands. "Mr. David, I know you're busy, but I'm from your hometown. I'm graduating next month, and I want to be a designer like you. But my parents think it's unrealistic. They want me to get a real job. I don't know what to do." Looking at her, I saw myself at 18, full of dreams and terror in equal measure. "What's your name?" "Sarah. Sarah Martinez. Sarah, let me tell you what I wish someone had told me when I was your age." I spent 20 minutes with her, looking at her work, giving her practical advice about building a career in design, about perseverance, and believing in yourself even when others don't. As she walked away, beaming with renewed confidence, I realized something profound. My parents' rejection had hurt, but it had also taught me empathy. Every young designer I mentored, every creative person I encouraged, every time I chose to see potential instead of problems, that was my real victory over their harsh words. I called my parents that night. David? Mom sounded surprised. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. I just wanted to tell you something. Today I met a young woman from our hometown who wants to be a designer. Her parents don't support her dreams, just like you didn't support mine. Silence. I helped her, Mom. I gave her advice, encouragement, connections, and I realized that your rejection taught me something valuable. It taught me how important it is to believe in people, especially when they're following an unconventional path. David? Her voice was small. I'm not angry anymore. I understand you were scared, that you thought you were protecting me. But I want you to know that everything you called worthless, my art, my dreams, my silly computer pictures, those things didn't just make me successful. They made me someone who lifts others up instead of tearing them down. We're so proud of you, she whispered. We've always been proud of you. We just didn't know how to show it. I know, and I forgive you. But more importantly, I want you to understand that when you tell someone they're useless, you don't just hurt them, you rob yourself of the chance to watch them become extraordinary. There was a long pause. Then Dad's voice came on the line. He must have been listening on the extension. Son, he said, his voice rough with emotion, I've never been good with words like you are, but I want you to know that you're not useless. You never were. You're the most useful person I know. You make the world more beautiful, and you make people believe in themselves. I'm sorry it took me so long to see that. We talked for 2 hours that night. Really talked, maybe for the first time in our lives. We talked about dreams and fear, about success and failure, about what it means to be family. They asked if I'd come home for Christmas that year, and I said yes. But the real healing happened in the months that followed, as I watched them slowly change. Mom started volunteering at the high school, mentoring kids who were interested in creative careers. Dad, despite his limited understanding of technology, became my biggest advocate, proudly telling anyone who would listen about his son's work. The story came full circle one day when I received a letter from Sarah Martinez, the young designer I'd met at the conference. She was writing to tell me she'd been accepted to art school on a full scholarship and had already landed her first freelance clients. Thank you for believing in me when my own family didn't, she wrote. I promise to pay it forward. That's when I truly understood. The best revenge against those who call you useless isn't proving them wrong. It's proving them irrelevant. It's building a life so full of purpose and meaning that their words become nothing more than an old wound that taught you how to heal others. My parents had kicked me out for being useless, and years later they came begging for help. But in the end, neither their rejection nor their regret defined me. What defined me was what I chose to do with both: transform pain into purpose and use my success not just to prove my worth, but to help others recognize theirs. The young man they'd called worthless had become someone who helped others see their value. And that, more than any financial success or professional recognition, was the real measure of a life well lived.